There's a voice that says, not for you. You know the one. It's quiet, almost kind in tone, which makes it easier to believe. It tells you to be careful, to wait until you're ready, to not get your hopes up. It whispers that someone else is probably better suited, that this thing, this opportunity, this life, it might not be meant for you. And because it sounds reasonable, you listen. You make it sound noble in your head. You call it being realistic. That voice has been with you for years. It hides beneath ambition and responsibility. It weaves itself into your goals, your plans, your relationships. Sometimes you think it's protecting you from disappointment. Other times it just feels like it's keeping you small. But what if that voice is not your intuition? What if it's not caution or wisdom or humility? What if it's simply an echo of something that never belonged to you in the first place? We all learn that voice somewhere. From a parent who told us not to get our hopes up because they were trying to stop us from getting hurt, from a teacher who graded more than just our work, from a boss that rewarded exhaustion over creativity, from a culture that convinced us that productivity equals value. It does not take long for that lesson to take root. Do more, earn more, become more, then maybe you'll finally be enough. You grow up believing that worthiness is something that you must earn. And in doing so, you forget that it was something you were actually born with. That is the great trick of the modern world. It takes something that is inherently yours and turns it into something conditional. It tells you that once you achieve a certain level of success or approval or control, you'll finally feel complete. But what it does not tell you is that the goalposts move every time that you get close. There's always another standard, another rule, another person who seems to be doing it better. And no matter how much you achieve, that quiet voice still whispers, not for you. It shows up everywhere, in your work, in your relationships, in the way that you look at yourself in the mirror. It's there when you want to speak up in a meeting but convince yourself to stay quiet. It's there when someone compliments you and you immediately downplay it. It's there when you get an opportunity and instead of celebrating, you start listing reasons why you're not qualified. It's there when you hold success at an arm's length because you're scared that if you reach for it, you'll break it. It becomes a habit, a pattern of self-sabotage that hides behind politeness, humility, or humor. You want it with one hand and then you push it away with the other. And for a long time, that pattern makes sense. It feels safe. It gives you the illusion of control. If you do not hope too much, you cannot be disappointed. If you do not try too hard, you cannot fail. But what you do not see is that every time you protect yourself from disappointment, you also protect yourself from possibility. You become a guardian of your own limitation. The truth is that most of our striving is not about wanting more. It's about proving we deserve what we already have. We confuse worthiness with achievement and we mistake approval for love. And we spend our lives collecting evidence to justify our own existence. But what if there was nothing to prove? What if worthiness was never something that you could earn because it was never in question? Think about a baby. When a baby is born, nobody waits to see if it will become successful before deciding if it deserves love. It's loved because it exists. Its presence is enough. Its cry is enough. Its being is enough. Or think about a dog. You do not ask a dog to prove its value before you pat it. You do not check if it has earned your affection. You simply love it for being there, because something deep in you recognizes life itself as worthy of care. You were that once too. You still are. You've just forgotten. You forgot because somewhere along the way, someone told you that being loved for who you are is not enough, that you have to contribute, to earn, to achieve, to justify your place in this world. And over time, you believed them. You started to measure yourself through the eyes of other people. You began to chase proof instead of peace. You forgot that worthiness is not a prize, it's a birthright. And the work is not about earning it back. It's about remembering what was never lost. The remembering starts in presence. When you sit quietly without distraction and notice that the sky is still there even when it rains. When you feel your breath move in and out and realize that life is happening whether or not you're performing. When you allow yourself to stop doing just for a moment and nothing falls apart. That is the doorway. That is where you begin to see that your worth is not tied to your productivity or your performance. It's not something that you can gain or lose. It is constant. Presence teaches you that you are already enough, that the value of your life has never been determined by what you achieve, but by the fact that you exist at all. It's not an idea you need to convince yourself of, it is the truth that you need to remember. And remembering is not an intellectual process, it's a practice. It happens in small, ordinary acts that tell your nervous system that you belong. You can practice it when you eat well without guilt, when you rest without apology, when you accept a compliment without explaining it away, when you say thank you instead of I'm sorry, when you give yourself permission to enjoy something for no reason at all. These small moments are not self-indulgent. They are acts of remembering. And each one says, I'm allowed to exist as I am. And the more you practice them, the quieter that old voice becomes. The voice that said, not for you, begins to lose its power because you stop arguing with it. You stop needing to prove anything. You start recognizing that you already belong. This is not a quick fix. You will not wake up one morning and never doubt yourself again. There will still be days when that voice gets loud, when you feel unworthy, unready, or unseen. But those feelings do not define you. They are weather. Worth is the sky. Feelings are the weather. The sky does not disappear when the clouds move in. It does not stop being the sky when it rains. It remains what it is, vast, constant, and open. You're the same. You can feel unworthy and still be worthy. You can feel lost and still be whole. You can be a work in progress and still be enough. That is the paradox of being a human being, and it's what makes life beautiful. You do not need to fight the voice that says not for you. You just need to stop letting it be the only one that speaks, because underneath it there is another voice, a quieter one, a truer one. It's not demanding or loud. It says things like, this is possible for you. It says things like, you're allowed to rest. It says you can try again. And it says you are always enough. That voice is the sound of remembering. It's the sound of coming home to yourself. You were not born believing that you were not enough. You learned that. And anything learned can be unlearned. Every time you catch yourself striving for proof, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to prove? And to whom? Most of the time, the answer will be to myself. To some part of you that still believes love has to be earned. Well, what if love was never a transaction? What if worth was never a competition? What if you could stop auditioning for a life that you already have? The freedom you are chasing is not at the end of achievement. It's right here in this moment, waiting for you to stop running long enough to feel it. You are allowed to stop. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to be. There is something deeply powerful about realizing that nothing you can do could make you more or less worthy. That the things that you achieve are expressions of who you are, not justifications for your existence. It changes how you approach everything. You stop working to prove your value. You start creating because you value yourself. You stop chasing people who don't see you. You start building relationships that reflect mutual respect. You stop punishing your body for not being perfect. You start treating it like the home it has always been. You stop seeking constant validation because you already know the answer. You are already enough. When you stop trying to earn your worth, something interesting happens. You begin to enjoy life again. You begin to make decisions from peace instead of fear. You stop rushing because you realize there is nowhere to get to that will make you more complete than you already are in this moment. You stop trying to prove and start trying to live. And life in its simplest form becomes something to experience rather than to conquer. A conversation rather than a competition. That is the power of remembering. It brings you back to what was always true. You do not have to deny your ambitions or stop striving for growth. This is not about giving up on goals. It's about removing the fear that drives them. You can still want more. You can still grow, still learn, still build, still create, but you do it from fullness instead of emptiness. You pursue what excites you, not what you think will finally make you enough. You can love the process of becoming without believing that your worth depends on it. And that shift changes everything. When you know you're worthy, you stop needing the world to confirm it. You start making choices that align with who you are instead of who you are trying to prove yourself to be. You stop performing for approval and start living from authenticity. That is what real freedom looks like. The more you practice presence, permission, and compassion, the stronger this remembering process becomes. It turns from a thought into knowing, and from knowing into a way of life. You start to feel comfortable in your own skin again. You begin to understand that you do not need to fix yourself to be accepted, because you are never broken. Think about how the world might change if more people remembered this, if we stopped chasing our worth and started living from it. If work became an expression of service instead of self-punishment. If rest was seen as nourishment rather than laziness. If confidence came not from comparison but from inner peace. That is the kind of world I want to live in. One where people do not need to shrink or prove, where we can just exist fully, imperfectly, and enough. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not missing anything that is meant for you. The universe is not keeping score. It's not waiting for you to earn your place. You are already a part of it. You always were. Every breath you take is proof of belonging. Every sunrise you wake up to is an invitation to start over again. Every moment you choose compassion over criticism is another act of remembering. You do not have to earn your worth. You just have to stop forgetting it. So when that voice shows up again, when it says not for you, pause. Don't fight it. Don't feed it. Just listen to what is underneath. Listen for the truth that has been waiting there the whole time. The truth that says you were born worthy, that today is only about remembering. You do not have to chase it. You don't have to prove it. You only have to return to it. You were born worthy, and you still are. And the world needs you to remember that. Because when you do, everything around you begins to change. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and a subscribe. It helps me, it helps the channel, and it helps people like us find the content that really matters. And as always, I would love to remind you that you matter too. Don't forget that.